we go to our next presenter, Clara Toombs.
Clara, are you there?
Are you with us? Clara is an
I am.
expert, consultant for small businesses. I think what Alex presented us, not many small businesses can manage by themselves because email deliverability can be really hard if you have to do your own job and accounting and cleaning up the office later after hours. So maybe you can tell us about email marketing success, how to do it for small businesses. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, happy to. Can I share my screen?
Yes, of course.
Okay, can you see my screen now?
Good.
Super.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Clara. We're going to be talking about the 5 essential principles for email marketing success, focusing on the fashion industry. So I'll just introduce myself. So my name is Clara, and I'm super passionate about helping small businesses grow through email marketing. I run my own email marketing consultancy, and I also work with passionate solopreneurs and startups. I'm a certified executive coach and mentor, and yeah, I'm really excited to be here. So just a bit about my journey, and then we'll dive into the deck, just in terms of, how I got to this point. So my career has been very much focused on email, CRM, loyalty, retention, and I've worked for some big brands up to this point. So you'll recognize the Expedia Group, so hotels.com, Money Supermarket, Photobox, Monsoon Accessorize, which is very relevant to today's talk. I also contribute to key digital marketing text on email marketing, and I run and deliver keynote speeches to a variety of sizes of audiences. And now I run my own consultancy. So let's get started. So today we'll be going through the opportunities and challenges for fashion brands. We'll be looking at the 5 principles, and I've pulled together some case studies from the real world just to show you what's possible in the world of email marketing for fashion brands. So let's start with the challenges for email marketing for the fashion brands. So first of all, let's just be really clear, and we know that competition is super fierce in the fashion world. I'm sure all of us have lots and lots of brands that might appear in our worlds in some shape or form, but the competition, particularly in fashion retail, is incredibly fierce. Our inboxes are crowded, and as we're coming up to a big seasonal event of the year, Black Friday, in a few weeks, we're going to get even more inundated with lots of campaigns in our inbox. We're also constantly in sale mode. So I'm sure you'll see certain brands are just constantly in this cycle of being always in offer. So 50% off, buy one, get one free sale. And actually, I go on later to talk about how that could be quite damaging for your brand. And of course, we can't ignore the elephant in the room around Black Friday. And I'm more than happy to talk more about Black Friday today. But the opportunities here are huge. So I pulled out some stats here, and I want to share with you at a global scale, revenue in the fashion industry is growing at a rate of 9.4%. And that's set to rise to $1.94 trillion in 2027. Now, if you think about the current climate that we're in right now and the cost of living, I think this is pretty staggering. So it just shows that regardless of the struggles in terms of cost of living, there's still the desire to treat ourselves to clothing. And as we know, email is one of the most cost-effective and highest ROI channels. But why does email marketing work for the fashion industry? Well, first of all, it's fast. If we think about how quickly the fashion industry works, so for example, if something's back in stock, you know, your automated sequences can get to that person really quickly in terms of, you know, automated triggers. The personalization opportunities are huge. So as you buy with a brand, we collect lots of great information about you, and this makes it really rich in terms of the opportunity we have to give you a much more personalized experience through email marketing. And one of the other great things is that we get to build those relationships. Now, this is really building on loyalty and brand awareness, and I talk more about this later, but yeah, this is a great thing that we can do through email marketing for fashion brands. We tend to see higher engagement rates. So if someone is really engaged in a brand, we tend to see you know, frequent engagement across a number of campaigns. And we can also track purchasing behavior. So this again is a great benefit for us in email marketing. And one of the great things with a lot of fashion brands is the visual assets. They work so well in email. So here are some good reasons. But fundamentally, email marketing is all about building relationships and a connection with your audience. So I'm going to dive into the 5 principles today. So how email marketing drives sales and builds relationships in fashion retail. So principle number 1 is understand your audience. So we must know who we are sending emails to so we can determine relevancy and so much more. So a few things to think about here. Has your audience changed in the last 12 or so months? In what way? Are there new behaviors you're seeing? Who might be on your list now? And what are they most interested in? Have you changed your product range in any way? Have you introduced something new? And are you appealing to new segments? So for example, if your business has opened up in new markets, for example, are we catering to those new markets? And are we creating the right kind of content for our audience? Principle 2 is leverage your data insights. So what do you already know? This is a really important question. We search high and low for understanding more about who our audience, what they're doing today. But actually, if we look back at the last few months, we can really get a good picture of what our audience are doing in terms of interacting with our brand. So I would revisit this periodically, and depending on how much change there is in your business, perhaps customer behaviors or interests or attitudes have changed. What interested your audience maybe 12 months ago may no longer be relevant. So it's really important that we, you know, we are ensuring that we are really making the most of our data insights. And if you're unsure about what content that's going to appeal to your audience, you can always ask them through social media polls, via emails, focus groups. So it kind of building on this, we want to look at then tailored strategies based on data insights. So as our customer needs have changed, it's important to not be complacent. And we want to make sure that we are keeping up with the trends. As with the world of fashion, trends happen and change very quickly in a short space of time. And I very much believe that this is the case with, you know, the data that we see around our audiences and how we use it for email marketing. One of the other things to consider is, you know, do you understand who your high value segments are? Do you understand who your VIP segments are? And are you treating them differently? Can you identify them? And also think about what incentives, what would excite your most loyal customers. When I worked at Monsoon Accessorize, we actually brought in our VIPs to the head office. It was a personal invitation, and they got to spend some time with the founder. They got to see the new range of the next season's range before anyone else. And there was a competition for them to win a prize for a product to be named after them. Now, if you're a big fan of a specific brand, this is a great time to spend a day at your favorite brand's head office. So there are different ways you can reward your most loyal customers. Now, the content balance, this is something that I've included here as a principle because I believe that within the world of fashion email marketing, there is a heavy reliance on promotional. And I think it's really important to take a step back and look at how we have, how are we communicating with our audience? Offers, promotions will always be of interest to some brands, to your audiences, but it's important to consider other pillars such as community. So an example of this would be, imagine you're a vegan fashion brand. You might have some newsworthy content around new types of leather. I had a recent client who was exploring grape as a new type of leather. And that makes, a really interesting story around the product itself. So not just here's the product, but actually we want to start to see a bit more around the storytelling of what's actually happening. So with content pillars, it's really important just to make sure you're not spending all of your time in sale mode, as I mentioned earlier. Think about what other topics are your audience likely to be interested in. This is just in terms of building on the content. User-generated content is huge for email marketing in the fashion world. So here I have some stats. So 82% of consumers claim that user-generated content reviews are extremely valuable. And 70% of the consumers base their purchasing decision on reviews and ratings from others. So again, social proofing in email marketing within the fashion world is, so important, because we're making those decisions and we want to see what other people are doing. So again, a great aspect of your content marketing strategy here. And then principle 5 is very much about setting new goals for your segment. So let me explain what I mean by this. So when we start to look at our segments within our, let's say we're a fashion brand and we're looking at how each segment performs, we want to start setting some benchmarks against those segments. So how are they currently performing? And this is fairly standard practice. But what we want to do now is delve into the types of behaviors we see, particularly in fashion retail. So, for example, I've pulled out some types of behaviors here that we might want or we might see, and what kind of goals we might set. So here I have one-timers. So these are people that purchase from you once a year. It might just be that they shop at a particular point in time. For example, if your brand sells specific, let's say it's workwear in September, and that one-timer only ever comes to you in September, then we know that their behavior this far is they purchase with you once a year. So one of the goals you can set here is, well, we want to increase their spend by 2 or 3 times per year. Then you might have sales shoppers. So the goal here is to increase their average transactional value by at least, let's say, 10%. Now with sales shoppers, they're shopping at a certain price point. So here, this is more about increasing their basket size. So we want to see if we can stretch that spend over a certain period, usually 12 months. And then high returners are people who buy lots of products and return them. And we want to set a goal here to reduce that return rate by, let's say, 15%. So we therefore see less returns from this particular segment overall, which is a good thing. So you can see here that the goals for each segment are going to be different based on the way that the behaviors we see from each of those segments. Now, I haven't included other segments here, but your high values, for example, you might want to set specific stretch spend for those that are already interacting with you, but maybe it's more about referring a friend. So you can see the differences in the different goals we would set for each segment. But the question is, what can you put in place to deliver on these principles? So first of all, it's about captivating subject lines. We have become very immune to the standard subject lines now, and you might agree that it washes over us in terms of up to 50% off, buy one, get one free, you know, the usual kind of promotional content that we tend to see, particularly around this time of year as we approach Black Friday. Now, I do not suggest we stop this because, you know, it does work. However, I think we should also think about other ways we can engage with our audience. And I don't think that offer-led subject lines should be relied upon. So I wanted to give you some examples here of different types of ways you can drive engagement through subject lines. So I've taken this from Opt-in Monster. So on the left here, we have how to drive curiosity. So curiosity is a really great way to get people to open campaigns. So yeah, I mean, some of these I wouldn't recommend, but some of them here we have, you know, for this one, is this the hottest career in marketing, would get me to open. I'd avoid trying to be too clickbaity and not have the content to follow through on the subject line. But I wanted to give you some examples of how to drive curiosity. Then we have vanity appealing subject lines. So this very much appeals, and particularly in fashion, we want to be appealing to the vanity aspects of, you know, in terms of what people are likely to be interested in. So here I've just circled age-defying beauty tricks. You know, there are definitely ways we can appeal to someone's vanity through subject line. And I think fashion is a great place to play with these types of subject lines. And my guidance here is don't be afraid to experiment. Lots of A/B testing to work out what works for your audience. I've also included a couple of other types of subject lines here. So catchy subject lines work really well where you have a number. So grow your email list to 10x. But like I said, just be careful not to be clickbaity. On the right-hand side, we have customer pain points. So this is very much about thinking of your customer and what their specific pain point is at this point in time in relation to your brand. So, you know, there are a few examples here, but it could be, you know, how to survive your next overnight flight, learn a language with only 5 minutes per day. So we're recognizing here that the customer only has limited time. So these are ways that, you know, taking these principles, we can apply them to a fashion brand and be playful if that aligns with your brand values, of course, as a way to encourage those opens. Next is design mobile first, and this sounds completely obvious, but a lot of brands don't do it. So here are some practical pointers, particularly for fashion. So single column layout works really well. Aim for bigger. I like to keep it really simple when it comes to fashion emails because I think the products speak for themselves. Left align your copy, add space, optimize for load time. So a discussion I had recently with a client is they wondered why their email wasn't working too well in terms of clicks. And I looked at the email campaign and they had about 5 different GIFs. And I think that's a no-no from me. I definitely reduce those down so that you have improves deliverability, but also load times for email. And then alt text as well. So remember, as we're on the go, we want to see that email land in our inbox and we want to be tempted to buy. And the easier we can make it for people, the better. Get personal with your audience. So I always think that, yes, subject lines are great for adding the first name, but personalization is so much more than that. There are so many opportunities, and with personalized emails, they deliver 6 times higher revenue per email, but 70% of brands fail to personalize their email marketing. So there's a whole missed opportunity here. And just on this point around maybe how you might be thinking about how I can personalize. There are so many different ways, and particularly within your email platform. For example, certain email service providers have the ability to tag. So if you know a certain segment is performing in a certain way, like we looked at earlier in terms of one-timers or sales shoppers, we can start to tailor that content according to their behaviors. So this is a real missed opportunity. I think there's so much more that can be done around personalization without the complexity. Now, with calls to action, particularly in fashion, we want it to be super clear. And remember, we're trying to get that desired action to be taken. So we want to make sure that that call to action is clear in the sense that it's visual, it's obvious what we want them to do. It's not hidden amongst lots of other imagery. And here is an example of one brand that I think do it really well, where it's clear about what steps they want me to take. Storytelling. I've included a really nice welcome email that I received from Oliver Bonas. For those of you that I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's a UK brand. They sell clothing and homeware and accessories. And what I really liked about this email is that first of all, the email's from the founder. So it's a real personal touch, but also the founder here talks about the history of opening the first store in 1993, expanding across the UK and Ireland, and just really about the company values of work hard, play hard, and be kind. So I think despite the pressure of, the commercial pressure of having to sell products in emails, I think there's always opportunity to storytell. And actually, I think the more you can talk about the reason of why your business is in existence and maybe some history, the better. I think those emails tend to do really well because it's a connection that you're forming with your audience. And I think this email is very simple, and it definitely caught my attention. In terms of other ideas and what you can do around storytelling, particularly in relation to fashion, is you could interview a fashion icon, and they might be wearing the products, your products, or have used your products in some way. And I think this is another way of kind of bringing your products to life without having to do another product shot. So a styling interview can really help understand how maybe that product can be, what it looks like in a real life scenario. Other stories include, how to be eco-conscious when buying clothes. I've seen a lot of startups focusing on this particular topic. So how do we make better decisions when it comes to fashion? For example, the kind of pre-loved market and how quickly that's, what that looks like now. There are lots of marketplaces out there. So in terms of storytelling, I think there's a lot of value in talking about not just the product, but actually what's the story behind the product. I mentioned earlier that I worked with a vegan fashion brand, and one of the stories we looked at was the factory and the production plant of where she her products are made. And it's actually really interesting around the whole kind of vegan lifestyle aspect. And that works so well in bringing that into your email comms. Of course, social media, but I think particularly through some kind of sequence or through your campaigns. I think storytelling is a wonderful thing to be thinking about when it comes to fashion and how to stand out in and amongst all the sale, discounts and promotion. Storytelling is definitely something to consider. Be newsworthy. So as I mentioned earlier, in most fashion retail businesses, apart from luxury, VIP, high-end fashion, on the whole, fashion retail is about scarcity. So, you know, you might have an email go out about low stock levels. We want to be driving sale through scarcity. New collection launch. So this is, you know, one of the great things is that you're always going to have newness. When you have new products launching, this is newsworthy content, and we want to share that with our audience first. Same for hot off the press. It may not necessarily be in relation to a product. It could be there's some news about the founder. It might be there's news about the business expanding, or, you know, new product range. So hot off the press is also a really great approach to take when it comes to being newsworthy. Early bird offers work really well, particularly for those businesses that have some kind of loyalty aspects. And I have a case study in a moment that will show you, you know, the value of that and how that could, you know, really help your business. Another thing is sneak previews. Now, we always want to feel like we are being told first about something. So sneak previews are something you can do through email very easily. Obviously, you need the customer journey needs to be controlled in a sense that the landing page that the subscriber lands on must be contained just for them. But sneak previews are a fantastic way to drive that kind of brand advocacy and making people feel special, because they're seeing something before anyone else. And, you know, we all want to feel that way. So sneak previews for your email audience are fantastic, and particularly for fashion brands. So yeah, my guidance here is to keep experimenting. What works for one brand may not work for another, but I think when it comes to subject lines, when it comes to content, I think depending on your brands, you can try to be quite playful, and just see as well, like, you know, some of the trends that are out there in terms of what your competitors is doing, and see what you can do to stand out in the inbox. I think storytelling is definitely underutilized, as well as personalization. So the only way we're going to see what works for your brand is to continue to A/B test. So I'm going to just show you now, I think I have some time for this. I'm just going to show you a couple of quick case studies, and then we can move into questions, to Q&A. So I wanted to bring to life some success stories in the fashion industry in relation to email marketing. So let's dive in. So Brava Fabrics, they stated that email is their most profitable marketing channel. So what they've done is they have increased their email by 76% year on year, 60% of email revenue from automations, and 101% increase in online sales growth. So how did they do that? Well, they highlight here 3 different ways that they achieved these results. So number 1 is the back in stock email. So, you know, the frustration when you go on a website and you want something in your size, it's not in your size. So you complete a short form that essentially, you know, asks for you to be notified via email when something's back in stock. Well, this was an incredibly high performing automated email for Brava Fabrics. And this has worked really well for them. So just thinking about your customer journey and improving the experience, back in stock emails work exceptionally well. Review follow-up email. So these are personalized flows based on product reviews. So basically like following up on specific reviews that people have left. And here they use Klaviyo to benchmark their performance. So yeah, for those that know Klaviyo well, there's the option to do that. And they say here that email marketing already makes up 25% of their revenue, and it's their most profitable channel. And what I didn't include in here is their culture of testing and investing in email marketing, particularly, you know, when there are difficult times in terms of recession, in terms of cutting back on marketing. Rather, Fabrics have gone full force in investing in email marketing and other marketing channels, and you can see here it's really paying off for them. And then the Couture Club. So I wanted to show a slightly different type of fashion brands. And what they've done here is they have increased revenue during Black Friday. So essentially what they've done here is they have seen growth in email marketing revenue by 325% during Black Friday. They sent from a single SMS campaign, they generated £10,000, and they're seeing an average order value of 2.1 per customer. So what they attribute this to is an early access to Black Friday stock. So remember I mentioned earlier about that feeling of feeling special and being told or shared something quite exclusively first. And you know, that's one of the great things about email. We can do that. And, you know, Couture Club have seen this work really well for them. So they released some products to their loyalty base early on, just before Black Friday. And what they say here is our average customer spends 150 a year with us, but a customer subscribed to our loyalty program spends 350. So this is an extra 200 a year. So this kind of links into loyalty, and we haven't delved too much into that today, but that's something that can drive even more insights for your business. When I ran the loyalty program for Monsoon, there was so much data, and that was the exciting part about that. You know, how can we really tailor the experience, but also how can we leverage that for those key moments throughout the year, such as Black Friday, which is a huge trading weekend, let's say, or even month for many businesses. So really, just to recap then, so we've looked at how email marketing drives sales and builds relationships in fashion retail. We've looked at what you can put in place, and we've looked at some case studies, and really I want to say that the opportunities are huge. Whether you're a small business, you know, selling a small product range at this point, or, you know, you're much more established, I think regardless, as I mentioned at the start, the market is growing as an industry. It's only going up in terms of demand and opportunity. So I think there's a real, there's lots of exciting you know, options ahead for fashion brands, and I think it's only set to continue. So yeah, really exciting time to be in this space. Just wanted to share my email marketing tips. So I regularly write blogs on email marketing. So here's my website and details. And I have a quiz for a chance to win a complimentary 30-minute roadmap session with me. Just need to scan and take the 2-minute quiz for your chance to win. But that was it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clara. It was really insightful. Can you turn off the
Yeah, stop sharing.
Thank you. So I encourage everyone to sign up and take the quiz on your website. We will share the materials afterwards also. We have some questions from the audience. Some are pretty concrete. For example, what do you suggest is the maximum GIF size in an email?
Oh, that's a good question. So is this a rotating GIF, or is this just, is the person?
Let's say it's a rotating GIF.
Yeah, I think I try and keep them as fairly small as possible, because I think the larger you go, so for example, I was experimenting the other day with a GIF. I think anything over 10 meg can be just too heavy, and sometimes some email platforms don't allow you to load those. So I think for me, I try to keep my GIFs to 2 or 3 pages under 10 meg. I think the lighter the better, because it doesn't affect load speed. So yeah, I think it's just a case of with each platform just experimenting what works. But I'd be looking at load times as well. So yeah, I hope that helps.
All right, okay. What was one thing you tried recently that really exceeded your expectations? Was there something like that?
Is that in relation to fashion or just generally?
Generally.
Um, there's a couple of things that are working really well for one particular client at the moment. And remember I said about storytelling. So we have started to bring in some much more relevant blog content. And we found that even when we do commercial, so products, you know, the more kind of e-commerce side of the content, when you write a blog content by someone external who really knows that subject area, it can work really well, to the point where we're seeing, you know, 5-6% click-through rates. So I think relevant blog content where storytelling is bringing something to life for the audience, that was something we recently saw, and we wanted to repeat that for a particular client. So storytelling by someone really relevant in the industry, whether it's yourself or someone who has a voice of authority in the business that you're working in, can really add value, I think, to an email.
Okay.
Okay, we have their questions, or I will ask
Please
my
go ahead,
interesting
Tanel.
question. So, if I'm thinking like fashion and the email marketing, so in strategical way, if I'm selling, let's say I will send the email to you with jeans or parka or whatever, you are buying it and you are using it like I don't know, 3 to 4, 5 years. So what I have to send to you the next time? So if I'm sending all the time those jeans or parkas, you already bought it.
Yeah, really good
So
question.
the upselling, okay, you can do cross-selling. You bought a parka, now you will bought the gloves or hat or boots. But if yeah, how to manage it, or you have to segment then that, okay, those guys already bought those jeanses. I will not send them my ordinary email. I will send them something else, etc., etc. If to think about the strategical way.
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, do we make the assumption that someone buys a pair of jeans and they don't need any more for 5 so years? The other assumption is, and this is why testing is so important, is we might sell different kinds of jeans that would be for a different occasion. So it's, yeah, there's cross-sell and upsell opportunities, but we need to challenge our assumptions that that person only wants one pair of jeans every 5 years. It could be that we sell as a business different types of jeans for different occasions. So therefore, this is how, you know, we can, let's say you've bought a pair of jeans for kind of, you know, weekend activity. We might then say, here's some smart jeans for going to dinner, you know, like we need to be looking at our data. And that's why I spent time on that earlier, because I believe that the clues are in the data of what people are already doing. But also, what are the opportunities in terms of, if we went down that assumption of, yeah, you're only going to buy jeans every 5 years, I'd challenge you to say, what's the data saying? Are people buying every 5 years, or are they buying different types of jeans over 2 years, for example? So I very much look at what the insights are telling us, but then also where are there gaps and where are there opportunities? because if you sell different types of jeans, then you wouldn't want to keep that from your audience. You'd want to let them know. And also the way I would approach that from a strategic point of view is showing them, bringing that pair of jeans to life for that occasion or that reason. You know, there's in fashion retail, most of it is so fast that there's always, people always want to buy something new more quickly than we perhaps realize. Now, the other side of that is people are being more conscious about the decisions they make and how frequently they buy. So this is why we need to understand the behaviors of our audience.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, thank you. But if you offer your services to small or medium businesses, how deep you go inside their business? Because what we have experience with, the clients usually think, oh, there is an AI tool somewhere. You just push a red button and everything is done. Like instead, I have to do anything. So why am I needed anymore? But how much input do you need from your clients?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And AI is coming up a lot for my clients in other, not just email marketing, other aspects. My view is that if I'm working with a new client for the first time, I really want to get to know their business. So I do like an audit of their platform and I understand what's, you know, I will do a bit of a deep dive into what's going on. I think the misconception about AI is that you press a button and it's all done. I think there are human aspects that we still need to consider, and maybe that will change in the next 5 years. For example, I do a lot of customer journey mapping where I essentially get into a room with my client if I can, or on Zoom, and we map out exactly what's happening now, what's the current journey. And I always find with that type of workshop that you'd be surprised at the different assumptions people make of what's happening with their customer journey. Oh no, that email's sent at that time. No, it's sent over, you know, later. Or so things come up. And so I think it's really important, even if you're new and you've only been live for 6 months, a year, you'd be surprised at the differences in opinion on how things run. So I still think there's a human aspect that needs to look at the bigger picture here and understand. Of course, you can use AI for like content ideas or specific tasks, but I think the human aspect of looking at the strategy is really important.
Okay, when mentioning AI, we actually run a few pilot projects with a few of our clients where you just push all the data you have inside the algorithms and it gives out concrete products for every client and it works like a charm. But it's not suitable for small and medium businesses always. It needs a lot of data, lot of purchase history, huge number of clients, a huge number of products. All of the different industries need a little bit different approaches, so on.
Definitely.
But, if I am a small business and you have one suggestion for me, where should I start to make the biggest impact with the first step?
In terms of making the biggest impact in relation to email marketing, if I'm a small business and I want to get data insights specifically, I think one of the things I would do, and it doesn't have to be for small businesses, this works really well for any size, but I think it's so valuable, is to invite your small group of people that buy from you regularly onto a focus group, because I find that that's really, really interesting. It's, it doesn't take too much of your time, a couple of hours, but you can really delve into understanding how and why that person buys from you. I think that's a relatively easy thing to do in comparison to, building lots of kind of complex data insight sets and just understanding data. I think actually qualitative data is also very useful. And I think that just asking your customers, what is it you like about the product? What would you like to see different? What would you do differently? Just getting those questions in front of them, I think could be super interesting. I think as well, we make a lot of assumptions about the products that we sell. And I think it's just so fascinating to get those real responses from people, not not kind of like just as a number, as a data set, but actually a person responding to say, I really love your product because, or this could be improved because. So I think that's something I'd advise someone who's just starting out, even if it's just a small group of people, it really is so useful.
I agree. We say, although we sit on the email marketing stone, we say that email marketing is really important. It's one of the best channels to drive sales if you are doing it correctly. If you invest your time and like thoughts into this program that you have. Thank you very much, Clara.
Thank you.
Very insightful.
Thank you so much.
Anyone
Thanks for your
wants
time.
to